All right, everybody, we are live. Second time today, but there's some breaking news, and I'm just going to be on for a few minutes because we've got dinner guests coming over, and I just wanted to get this out there while I have a minute to do it. Obviously, we're going to know more about this breaking news in an hour, in 2 hours, in a day or two, but I want to give you what we know right now because there's a lot of information coming out. And so let's just talk about what we know. The United States military has seized a large oil tanker, actually an ultra large oil tanker, off the coast of Venezuela in the last few hours. Now, President Trump announced it, and it was announced by Pam Bondi, so several different places. The U.S. military, led by the U.S. Coast Guard, so it was the Coast Guard that did it, seized the oil tanker, and its name is Skipper. And the tanker is, well, let's just say what we know about it, okay? It's a very large crude carrier. It was seized by the U.S. Coast Guard off the coast of Venezuela. It was carrying Venezuelan very heavy crude oil loaded from the port of Jose about 5 days ago. And it was on its way to Cuba with potential onward routing to Asia. Now, this ship actually is a ghost ship. It has not been registered officially since late last year. It is one of these ships in this network. It is officially owned by an organization in the Marshall Islands, I believe, but it was that organization is known to be an organization that is used for hiding the ownership of ships. The actual owner is believed to be a Russian shipping magnate who has been known to be participating in this ghost fleet that Russia has. So they believe that this ship in particular may have also been transporting illegal Iranian oil. And so that kind of, I guess, makes it a target worth taking by the United States. Now, we have some video here of the ship being taken. I guess the FBI and the DEA and all sorts of people were in on this. But this is what it looked like. This is called fast roping here. They're not rappelling. They're not hooked in. I've done that many times. And they just slide down the ropes. They hit the ship. That's very low fast rope. And then they take over this ship. There should be a crew of 20 to 30 people on a ship of this size. We don't know exactly because they don't, publish all that stuff. What we do know about the ship, again, a very large crude carrier designed for transporting large volumes of heavy crude. It's got deadweight tonnage of over 310,000 metric tons. That means it can have capacity for 2 to 2.2 million barrels of oil. If it was full of oil, we just took $150 million away from Venezuela that they desperately need. And of course, a lot of that money is controlled by Nicolas Maduro. This might be the way to get him to step down, is to start taking their oil. Now, again, this particular ship was an illegal ship carrying sanctioned oil to Cuba, not our friend, and that gave the military all the excuse they need. At least they didn't sink the thing. They just took it. In the press conference where the president announced this, he was asked, what are you going to do with all that oil? And it's interesting.
What happens to the oil on this ship?
Well, we keep it, I guess.
Where does it go? What does it go to?
Well, you have to follow the tanker. You're a good newsman, just follow the tanker. Do you know where
follow,
we're going? Was it going
follow
to
it.
China?
Get a helicopter and follow the tanker.
Is it true it's going to
But we're
Cuba?
gonna, I assume we're gonna keep the oil.
So he doesn't know what we're going to do with the oil. Nobody has told him that, and why would they? I mean, that's it just happened. I'm sure that they've been tracking this thing for some time, and I mean, this is a 1,000-foot long ship. It's a very big ship. This thing can travel like 12 to 18 knots maximum. As I said, a crew of 20 to 30 people. It was built in 2005, so it's 20 years old, but that's considered a midlife vessel in a regular tanker fleet. The cargo that was seized was Venezuelan crude, estimated at full capacity to be worth $120 to $140 million based on current Brent crude prices, about $62 a barrel. As I said, the registered owner is a Marshall Islands-based entity known as the Triton Navigation Group, and that's often described as a shell company or a paper company that's used to obscure beneficial ownership and specifically for sanctions evasions networks. The manager is another company like that, a real opaque firm called Thomas Rose Global Ventures, same ownership structure. The flag officially it's flying the flag of Guyana, the neighbor right next door to Venezuela. But if you understand anything about how those flags work on ships, a ship can choose whatever flag they want. And countries sort of compete to figure out, like, they compete to offer the best incentives to get ships to flag with them. But of course, if you offer too many incentives, you make it too easy, then the world bodies that govern shipping are going to sort of crack down on you because you're not requiring enough from the ships. And so it's a money-making venture for countries, but that's why there are a lot of ships. Actually, the largest flag of convenience, they call it, in the world is Panama, here where I live. And that's because they make it very easy to flag your ship here. It's not real expensive. There's not a lot of reporting requirements and things like that. This Guyana is very similar. And so there's a lot of ships, especially oil ships, that flag out of Guyana. But that doesn't mean that the ship belongs to Guyana. Doesn't mean it's from Guyana. Doesn't mean it has anything to do with Guyana or has ever even been there. They don't have to do that. So the U.S. officials that announced the seizure said that the ship was actually flying another flag of a country it's not registered to legitimately, and that's indicating potential tactics to dodge scrutiny as they're sailing the high seas. Now, I mean, that is patently illegal, very, very illegal. Now, I checked on, there's a ship finder registry. There's a website, just like FlightAware, where you can look up any flight in the world. In this one, you can look up any ship in the world. And I've used it a lot because when we go to the Panama Canal, it's fun to watch the ships go through and then look them up and see what's on it, where it came from, where it's going to, who owns it, all sorts of things like that. So I looked up this ship, and sure enough, it's a ghost ship. It does not have any current, there is a listing for that ship because it was registered at one time, but it shows that it's not currently active. Well, we know it's active, but it doesn't show that on the site. So that makes it a ghost ship. Now, the vessel's prior incarnation was called the Adisa. That's another thing they can do, is they can change the name of the ship fairly easily. So it used to be known as the Adisa, and it was designated as a blocked property of Triton Navigation, which supported a guy named Viktor Artemov, a Russian shipping magnate who is sanctioned by the United States for aiding Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and Hezbollah through illicit oil transfer. So this ship is this is bad. It's a bad guy. They don't I'm sure the U.S. military, before they jumped on the ship, knew everything about it. And they have the ability to know a whole lot more about it than we do. But these things are fairly transparent. This thing was built in South Korea in 2005. It entered service as a standard, very large global crude transport ship and had no notable incidents in its initial years. Then it changed its name to the Adisa at some point before 2022. In 2022, the U.S. Treasury Office of Foreign Assets of Control, OFAC, sanctioned it for involvement in Iran's shadow oil fleet, facilitating shipments that evaded U.S. sanctions and funded terrorism. The sanctions blocked U.S. property interests in the vessel and prohibited American dealings with it. It means it can't land in any port in the United States, etc. It's linked to a global black market network smuggling Iranian oil. It was investigated by the U.S. Justice Department. It's also been implicated in transporting Venezuelan oil in violation of the sanctions using tactics like I've talked about before, ship-to-ship transfers at sea, where they take the ship out and transfer all the cargo off onto a different ship that's actually still registered, and then mix it in with oil that's supposedly from a country that is not sanctioned, and then they can go and sell it. So that's kind of how they do this. It's very, very hard to track all of that because the sea is a very large place. There's a lot of ships floating around out there. So recent voyages include routes from the UAE to Guyana, and that suggests involvement in blending, which is what I just talked about, where they blend the oil in, or relabeling sanctioned cargoes. So I'm sure what they were trying to do was make it look like they had gone to Guyana and picked up a load of crude from Guyana, because they have a lot of crude oil as well. But then it actually went over to Venezuela and picked up some Venezuelan crude and switched their flags to look like a different ship. And then they were picked up by the United States. So the U.S. has probably been tracking these guys for some time, I would say. Okay, that's about all. I'll just reiterate the operation of the U.S. Coast Guard helicopters with Special Operations Forces apparently was 10 Marines and 10 Coast Guard personnel launched from a U.S. military vessel about 6 a.m. local time. This is the first time that there's been a physical U.S. interdiction of a Venezuelan oil tanker after months of sanctions and military patrols and strikes on suspected drug vessels in the region. The U.S. apparently plans to keep the oil, maybe auctioning it off or redirecting it to one of our allies. So this boat exemplifies the shadow fleet of aging tankers that are repurposed specifically for sanctions busting. And so it's not a surprise that the United States says. I'll play the video again of the seizure. If I can get that up on the screen. There we go. This is a Black Hawk helicopter coming in, and Marines and Coast Guardsmen fast roping down onto the ship. There's also another video floating around of at the same time, there was a boat, U.S. boat coming up alongside this ship and boarding it that way too. So these guys are taking over the ship here, and there you go. Very interesting stuff. Now, that's all we know. Okay, that's all we know right now. I'm going to look here. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate the donation there. But I wasn't planning to make this a big long live. I just wanted to come on, get me back on the screen there. There we go. I wasn't planning to make this a big live. I just wanted to get this information out there. My dinner guests have just arrived, so I'm going to let you go. But God bless you, and we'll see you again tomorrow, and we'll talk some more about what's going on tomorrow. So make sure that you are subscribed to the channel and go over to chuckholton.com if you want more information, because we're going to be putting stuff up over there, and we can often put things there that we can't put on YouTube, or they're too short or whatever to put on YouTube. So check out chuckholton.com, and we will see you next time. All right, take care.